All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. We are live, I believe, on both Twitch and YouTube. Looks like we are. Hope everybody is doing well tonight. We are going to pick up where we left off last week, plus a couple of things that I fixed off camera. Nothing major. And we're going to continue with our efforts to get things up and running after the major refactor. So, before we jump into that, I do just want to take a quick second just to thank the supporters of the channel, starting with our elite partner, who is Javier Lazaron. That is the highest tier of subscription over on YouTube memberships and Patreon. I would also like to thank the partners listed here, who are the next tier of subscription over on YouTube memberships and Patreon. They are for cont'd, Grabolis Inc., and Matt Osgard. In addition to that, I would like to also thank all the other supporters listed under the supporters section. That is a combination of the other tiers of support over on Patreon, YouTube memberships, as well as Twitch subscriptions. So thank you all very much for your support. It helps a lot in terms of covering costs of running the project, hosting fees, software licenses, things like that. So it's greatly, greatly appreciated. And thank you guys very much for that. And of course, it would be remiss of me to forget to mention you guys who are the viewers here, either on the Twitch side, the YouTube side, we simulcast to both, or whether you're catching this on the VOD after the fact. Thank you guys very much for being here. Without you guys, this project and thus this channel would not exist. So I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you for being here. All right. So with that being said, let's see. First time chat. Hello, I have no idea who you are, but you randomly got recommended to me in my Twitter timeline. That is super interesting. Well, welcome. So my name is Travis, and I am a game developer here on Twitch and YouTube. And what we're doing is we are making our own game engine, and thus eventually a game from scratch, completely from scratch. So we're not using something like Unreal or Unity to do that, if you've heard of those. We are programming the entire thing from scratch. And so we've been basically on a large quest to sort of clean things up and refactor or redo our code to make things a lot more consistent and easier to use and things like that, which involved breaking a lot of things. So we are on the path right now to remediate all of those issues so that we can actually start developing our game using all the stuff that we've built. So welcome, and I hope you get something out of this. All right, so without further ado, I will jump into where we are. In terms of the product itself, we are still working towards the 0.80 release. And our to-do list is actually coming along pretty nicely. So as a reminder, everything here with X's done in it are all completed items, and the ones that are blank are still to do. And some of these are nested, so the ones that are blank here may be blank because there is something underneath of it that's blank. So we still have a couple of different file types to write resource handlers for. The only one I'm really concerned about, I think, is probably this one at this point. And the scene one we're almost going to get for free. So I'm not too worried about either one of those. And I think the sound effect and music we can actually put off until the next release and just kind of do that the old school way for now. In addition to that, we've actually got most of our asset work done. So again, that is minus audio and music, which we may punt off to a future release. Other than that, it's a lot of miscellaneous little items that we have left to do. Some of this I'm going to actually punt out to a future release as well. So we are very nearing closing the loop on 0.8. And once that's done, we're actually going to start in the game. So we'll see if we wind up meeting our goal of actually having the game get started, first thing in the new year. We'll see if we land there. All right. Neobium over on the YouTube side is saying, hello, is it compulsory to use OOP? definitely not. Answer to that is a resounding no. We don't really use it here. Let's see. Struggling a lot with this. Maybe have some recommendations on how to learn OOP fast. Learning it fast. I mean, I know it kind of takes a little bit of work to wrap your head around it, right? But the stuff that I used to learn it initially probably isn't even around anymore, to be completely honest. So I don't know that I would be able to give a qualified answer in terms of learning OOP nowadays, because I'm so far removed from it that it's literally been about 20 years or so, actually probably longer than that since I learned that stuff. However, I do not use OOP unless I have to for stuff, right? Like for work, I use OOP, but for my personal projects, I don't. And even for work, I try not to use it unless I have to. And that's because it's not a one-size-fits-all solution like everybody says that it is, or that it's purported to be, right? I would watch some of Casey Muratori's talks about that. He talks a lot about that. It really depends, though, what you plan on doing in the industry. So is it required? Maybe it will be if you're into doing things like web dev or a lot of TypeScript type of work and things like that. You'll need to know it. If you're in game development, you may need to know it. You may not need to know it, depending on the studio. It's probably a good thing to learn and a good thing to know, even if you don't wind up using it, right? And the reason I say that is sometimes it's worth understanding how things work so that you know when to use them and when not to use them. So I hope that helps. OOP is bad. Yeah. I mean, I don't like to go OOP bad, right? Because sure, there are places where you're going to have to know it, right? I do not use it. I don't think it's the one size fits all solution that it's purported to be. But there are certainly circumstances professionally we are going to have to use it, and you do have to know it, whether or not it's good, or the opinion thereof is matching that, right? Like I said, I don't really like it. I don't like to use it. Part of that is based on opinion. Part of that is based on performance metrics and things like that. But again, it varies wildly depending on what you're doing. But yeah, I tend to agree, but like with most things, absolutes are almost never actually accurate, 100%. So OOP is object-oriented programming. It's a paradigm in programming where you try to break your code up into real-world type of objects, right? That's kind of a high-level view of it. There's a bunch more that goes into it than that, but that's ultimately the goal. And the whole idea is that you're supposed to be able to think about it in like real-world objects, right? Hence the object-oriented programming. Truth is, computers don't really handle data that way. That's more of a mindset thing up here, but it's not the way that computers handle data, and there's lots of issues with that under the hood, right, in terms of performance and other stuff. So generally speaking, especially in high performance applications, it's not really a good thing. But that's, it's a very high level answer and probably about as low level as I want to get, at least on stream. But what I can do is I can look around for maybe some resources to point you guys to the next time those questions come up. Because again, I'm so far removed from it. It's been so long since I've looked at that stuff that I don't feel qualified necessarily to always answer or speak on it, right? You're just hyperbolic by nature in Twitch chat. Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, you are using the cakes emotes, so there's that too. All right. So what we are working on now is, as you can see here, I've got validation errors from Vulkan. And so we are stepping through those. And specifically, it seems to be around this section, which I had put some fix me's on before. And I've run into a little bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. So what we had here before, and actually this one's fixed. We had some issues around around our descriptors not getting updated when they should. And the thing about Vulkan descriptors is you only want to update them once per frame, essentially. And so for our UBOs, I've actually got this figured out, but it's a little bit tricky with other resource types. So our uniform buffer object basically has a set of generations that are stored, one per image index, one per swap chain image index. And so what we do is we obtain a pointer to that, and the reason that we do that is because we reference it a few times down here and even update it down here. But essentially what we do is if that frequency generation, which that we got here, if that is invalid ID U16, then that means it's never been updated. And so in that case, we want to update that descriptor no matter what, because it's never been updated and you can't actually use it in a command buffer if it's never been updated. The other situation where we would want to update that is if they are not equal. So we pass in a UBO generation here, which can come from various different places depending on what frequency level, whether we're calling a per frame update, a per group update, or a per draw update. There are multiple places where that generation could come from, but that is passed in as a parameter here. And we essentially look at that and we say, hey, if the frequency generation is not equal to that, then we also need to update that. Because what that means is there has been some sort of update to the data within the UBO, and it needs to be updated for this frame. So what we do after that is we do the update here, which is we set up the descriptor right to be updated later in the command buffer. And then we go ahead and we sync the generation right then and there. And this actually prevents us from doing it more than once per frame. So if we try to draw the same thing more than once in a frame, we don't update the data twice for that. We only update it once. And this works, right? And the other thing that we do here is we do a quick check to say, hey, if the UBO generation is U16, right, then we're just going to go ahead and plug 0 in there. So that way we don't run into this loop where we're always just sort of updating based off of U16 equaling U16, right? Invalid U16, right? Which is basically U16 max, 65,535. Otherwise, we use the UBO generation that is passed through. And what this gets us, as well as this check up here, is there is a bit of an edge case when we first start up, where we can have something where the generation has never been updated and the incoming UBO generation has never been updated or is invalid. And in that case, we still need to actually perform some sort of update here before we can actually use that within the command buffer. And so in that case, we say if the frequency generation that we have is U16 or invalid ID U16, we always update it for that reason. And then this here just prevents us from kind of getting locked into that mode. So this seems to be working just fine. The hack is actually good. That was just a reminder for me to check something, so that is done. We also have a to-do in here about should this use frame number instead of generation. So this applies to the group level updates and the per draw level updates. The frame updates actually does already use frame number, so that is good to go. Now, that is the uniform buffer object. We also have, for samplers and images down here, we have a similar check when we get ready to perform the update on that. So again, we just obtain a pointer to the descriptor generation for that particular descriptor state, whether it's a texture or whether it's a sampler. We pull the generation for the appropriate image index. We grab a pointer to that, we do a check against U16, and then we do a check to make sure that they're not equal. And if either of these are true, we go ahead and perform the update and sync the generation with that invalid ID U16 check as above. And then we do the exact same thing for samplers. The odd part about this is it seems to work just fine for UBOs, but it does not seem to be working for samplers. So we actually need to kind of debug and troubleshoot this to try and figure out why that's happening. And I have a couple suspicions, and I have some things I think we might wind up actually circling back to this bit here, or actually this bit here for the frame number. So we're going to check on that and hopefully see if we can't figure that out. And that is where we are as of tonight. All right. Let's see. All right, Father Gregory. I think I pronounced that correctly. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Ruggs, how's it going? Good to see you. RCW, good to see you as well. Unreal Apprentice, how's it going? Welcome. All right. So I hope all that stuff made sense to you guys. Sometimes I just ramble, but I have to kind of talk my way through it sometimes to make sense in my own head so that I can try and figure it out. So I suspect that that these things down here are not actually completely what we need to do. Our original check here was just a check against the sampler generation versus the descriptor state generation at the image index. And so that's partially what we needed to do, but not the entire thing. And so I am wondering, I'm beginning to think that we actually should be basing this off of the render frame. I think. Because we have, for the different frequencies, right? We have the per frame frequency, which only gets updated once per frame. But groups should only be updated also once per frame per group, right? So it's not necessarily just once per frame, but you could still use the group number / the frame number to still maintain uniqueness there. So I'm actually thinking how we're passing through this UBO generation here might actually be useful for more than just the UBO, right? And so I'm wondering if maybe we should like convert our textures and our samplers in here to just use our frame number, right? And so this would essentially become a frame number check instead. Which is kind of what I'm leaning towards as the potential fix for this. The only thing that I can think of is when we have, well, actually, even if we have per draw textures and samplers, those are still unique within the per draw scope, right? So we still have one descriptor essentially per draw. So I think we can actually tie that to the frame number and just be done with it, right? And then do away with all this generation stuff. We could technically just call it frame number and be done with it, I think. So I'm going to try that and see if that actually helps us. Because what we're getting is we're getting a bunch of this stuff. Let's see if I can grab the stupid thing. There we go. We're getting a bunch of this stuff, which is basically talking about our Skybox per group ID blah 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 set 1, which is our per group, right? Binding 0 cube texture, right, is being used in a draw, but has never been updated via VK update descriptor sets, which is why I'm thinking this is where the issue is. And then I believe we also get the same thing for set 1 binding 1, right? And so that's the that would be, well, this is on a different shader. This is for the material water shader, right? And so I think we're probably hitting this issue across the board, and that's probably why. So the other thing that I could do is if we change to using just the frame number instead, what that would allow me to do is essentially remove the requirement of maintaining all of those generations all over the place that we had to do. Let's see. is there a preview of the engine? So it doesn't actually run at the moment, only because we are kind of closing the loop on stuff, right? What I can do, though, is I'll actually drop a link first. So we do have a website, and I'll pull this up real quick. Thank you for the follow, by the way. So we do have this website, cohiengine.com. This is the name of the engine we're making. And this is sort of like the central portal for the whole project, right? It contains the YouTube channel, the Twitch channel, where all the previous stuff exists. And if you scroll down here, it contains links to our Discord server. There's like 1,000 people on there. But most importantly, the GitHub link. So if we go to this guy, this is the repo itself. So just to quickly recap here, this is free and open source. It is Apache 2.0 licensed, which means that you can use the engine whether you want to use it for commercial or whether you want to use it for personal. It does not matter. The only thing that I ask is that you say that you used it. That's literally it. But if we scroll down here, we've got a couple of admittedly outdated screenshots with some test models in here, right? And there's some things we need to fix, and there are some things that have been fixed since these have been taken. But a couple things that I'll point out is we do have a basic PBR pipeline set up. We have cascading shadow maps in there. We have the ability to manipulate objects within the world with a gizmo, which isn't pictured here. But you can select an object, move it, rotate it, scale it, those kind of things. We have a custom UI system that we are building, complete with UI controls, not all of which are shown here. But we also have the ability to render text both in bitmap format, so like a bitmap text, or bitmap fonts rather. That's what this is down here. And then we also have what I call system fonts, which are loading TTF fonts, true type fonts, which allows us to handle UTF-8 text rendering. So we have that as well. And here's another screenshot of that. We added water not too long ago, or at least a water plane. And then, there's, I think that might be all the screenshots I actually have currently. But it at least kind of gives you an idea of where we're at. So, we do have 3D spatial sound as well. We do not have a physics engine yet. That is on the list, but the first game that we're going to make does not actually require one. So, we're actually going to start, making the first game here, hopefully at the beginning of the next year. But yeah, that is basically where we're at with the project. So it's not exactly a preview. Like I said, this is kind of broken because we are in the middle of closing a refactoring loop. But that's kind of where we're at the moment. So I hope that makes sense. All right. So I want update and bind. Okay, so this is for the per frame. So for the per frame, we're actually passing the render frame number anyway. And so I'm probably just going to do that across the board, right? So we have our per frame updates. Here is our per group updates, which is passing through the generation that we pass here. I'm just going to let's see, renderer frame number. Where did we get that from? Did we pass that in, really? I guess we did. Okay. So I guess we're just going to change generation here to renderer frame number. Which, yeah, that makes sense because that's managed by the renderer front end. So we'll do the same thing here, and we'll do the same thing here. And I'm actually going to just grab this whole thing. Right. And what I'll do is, let me change the header for that, right? So that's going to be this one, render a frame number, and we'll do it here as well. Right, and then we'll go to the front end. And let's see. We are going to do away with that last bit, right? Because we don't actually need to pass that because the renderer front end already has it. So we'll delete that parameter. And then let's go to here. We will remove this, and we'll replace this with state frame number, and we'll do the same here. And we'll remove that, right? Which is going to break a few things in code, but it also means that we do not have to maintain those things any longer. So I guess let's build that real quick. Material system is one of those things that I think, wasn't it material system? Shader system, which I think also takes that in. Yes, it does. So we actually need to go to the header file here, and we need to remove generation here. So that's no longer needed, and we can get rid of the parameter. And we can do the same thing here. Right. And remove that. And that's going to break some other stuff. So material system is definitely going to be broken there. We have this base material generation. We need to remove that property. That is no longer needed. Okay, so we can actually get rid of that. And then we also have base material generation here, so we can get rid of that. And we have material instance data generation. That is no longer needed also. So we can get rid of that. That's the per draw generation, essentially. So we don't need that anymore. And I think we've got, let's see, we got one more of those. All right, let's see. Here is the material instance base color sets. Increment generation. This can actually, this entire function can go away. Actually, let me go to its definition first. I'll remove this, and then remove this, and then remove this, right? Remove that. I think we've just got this a few places in here. We no longer need to worry about that. That will just happen. That will just happen naturally now. Okay. Let's see. Where's our actual error? Render graph, forward render graph node. That actually makes sense. This was one of the places that we had applied those changes. So we have this Skybox shader group data generation. Let's go to definition on that. So we actually have the group data and the draw data generations. We don't need those anymore. We do need the group and draw IDs. Currently on my 10th attempt to learn C, failed every time. So the way that I normally recommend that people learn C is to just keep using it and stick with it, even when it frustrates you. You definitely want to make sure that you are doing things that are challenging you, but not attempting something huge like a game engine when you're trying to learn the language, right? Write a few small utilities. What I usually suggest is one of the best ways to learn C is to write a string library of your own from scratch, right? Implement all the string functions from scratch. And that will teach you more about C than just about anything else out there. And then the next thing is like write like a program that processes and handles files, inputs and outputs content to files. Between that and strings, it'll probably teach you just about everything you need to know as far as how C works, and then you can step onto something more complicated from there. All right, we don't need generation data here. I think we have resolved all errors there. Do you find streaming to be helpful as a rubber duck, or would you rather code in isolation? It's a little bit of both, actually. That's a good question. So funny enough, actually, I do have an actual rubber duck that that my wife got me because I was actually joking about rubber ducking one day, and she thought it was deeply hilarious, and got me an actual rubber duck. So I do actually have a rubber duck. But yeah, I do find that talking through problems sometimes is super, super helpful. So when I'm debugging something like this, or trying to design something, I find that even just talking to myself about it, or the old rubber duck, is super helpful. There are times though, like when I have a large task that I know what I have to do, and I know all the steps to do going into it that I need to do. Sometimes that is easier to code in isolation for sure. It's a little bit less distracting, and I do get further along. So it really depends on what I'm working on. Okay, let me see. We usually test new languages making a Discord bot with a library, but I cannot for the life of me understand connecting WebSockets to C. So, see, that is something that works for a lot of languages, but not like a systems language like C, right? And that's the way that I would say, definitely write something like a strings library. Something that's not going to require use of external libraries, right? Something where you can just get in and write code in the actual target language that you're trying to work with, and you don't also have to then understand external libraries to sort of learn that, You have a rubber pig? That's pretty epic. I like that. That's the first time I've heard that one, actually. Does it make noise? Like, do you squeeze it and it makes noise or something? This one doesn't, but that would actually be pretty funny. Okay, so Skybox C. We've got a couple of other things here in terms of generation. I think I already deleted those, so we can actually just get rid of those. And I think this is also going to be the same thing. Okay. Debug render graph node. Okay, that was another one. I know I had to kind of add these all over the place, which is kind of annoying. It should have tipped me off then that maybe wasn't the right idea. But that is just the way that it works sometimes. Sometimes you don't always figure everything out in advance, and sometimes you got to make the stupid mistake in order to actually arrive at the final solution, right? So I think that's what we've done here, and we're just making up for that now. So we have shadow render graph node, shadow render graph node. Let's see, so that's just a deprecated warning. So we have this generation, which is the group data. We can get rid of that. The draw data, we can get rid of that. Which really, do we even bother? Yeah, I guess we can keep that. That's fine. All right, so we'll delete all that generational stuff. Let's see, we got a couple more places in here. All right, here is the actual pass-through to that. Here's another one. We could just, I should probably actually get rid of anything that mentions the generation too. Let's see, we got two more errors in here. Got a few deprecations. I really ought to come in here and clean those up at some point too. Let's get rid of that and that. And then let's just search for the word generation. We don't have it. Okay, so I guess we've gotten everything there. All right, UI render graph node. This is another one that doesn't surprise me. I like changes where I delete more code than I actually add. Looks like we don't need kmath. Okay, we can get rid of that. That's fine. We have the per draw generation, so let's actually get that out of there and the group generation out of the standard UI renderable. Okay. Let's see. So this needs to be there. We don't need the generation stuff there. And here we are passing it again. And one more time. And I think the rest of this is just deprecation. Do we have any generation references in here? We do not. SUI text box. Okay, so some of these individual controls are going to have it as well. Let's see. So we don't need that. Here we go. So we can delete that and that. I think that's actually all this file needs. SUI button. I'll bet the label is also probably going to need it. Okay. SUI panel. All right, and I think this is going to be the same thing. We just have to remove all of the generation stuff. Okay. I'm just going to jump to this file because I'm pretty sure, yep, it does have it in here too. Okay, let's build. Let's see. Editor Gizmo render graph node. That is this one. Okay, here we are right here. So let's just get the draw generation out of here. Do we have... Actually, I think that might be the only one we have to remove for this guy, which would be ideal. We can get rid of that. And we can get rid of that. All right. Cool. So now that builds. I don't know if that's going to solve our problem right off the bat. I don't think it's going to, but let's go ahead and try it. So I'm just going to pull the debugger down here and let's run it and see what we get. I suspect there's going to be a little bit more work to do there. Okay, so we're still getting weirdness here, right, with the updating, and that's because we still have something not being updated in here. So let's examine this. All right, so these errors are all on draw command indexed, it looks like. Yep, okay. Descriptor set at this address. Let's see, shader per group, ID 6. I'll bet this is ID 7. The next one's probably ID 8. Yep. Okay. Set 1, binding 1. Set 1, binding 1. Variable atlas texture, that's the same thing, is being used in draw, but has never been updated. Okay, so have we actually set correctly? Actually, is it bleating about just the texture, or is it bleating about the samplers too? Let's see, atlas texture. I think it's only the texture, interestingly enough. I wonder if that's because, well, it might be the initial ID or the initial generation of the texture. Oh, right. We shouldn't be doing this anymore. We should be, yeah, I only did half of it. So we need to go back into this because we are, let's see, wait a minute. Here we go. All right. So I think this one works because we're using this UBO generation, right? Which we really ought to rename to render a frame number, all right? Because that's what it is now. So I'm thinking, instead of syncing to texture generation, for example, right, or sampler generation, we'll try texture generation first. I think what we're going to do is we are going to check this. We're going to leave this check in, but we're going to instead check against renderer frame number, right? And then if renderer frame number is invalid ID U16, then we're going to use 0, otherwise we'll use renderer frame number. I think that makes sense. All right, we're also going to take this. We're going to do the same thing for sampler. And we're going to replace the generation check, which happens to be the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and build that. It'd be funny if it oinked. It'd be super funny if it oinked. Do you have experience writing shaders in Unity at all? I do not, no. Wasn't something like all the shaders that I've written have all been for implementations like this or custom engines. I have played around with it in Unreal a little bit, though. That's a lot of errors, yeah. It is a lot of errors, but it's all fall through from the same thing, right? So, you know, it's basically the same error over and over again. It's because we're drawing multiple things, and they're all failing in the same way. And so we output everything when it fails, right? And it's because I don't have any breakpoints in the code also. Did I build this? I got distracted. Okay. So that's built. Let's run. See if we're any better off. Yes. There we go. Fixed. No errors. So, you know, I think I can open up the console, input commands, all that stuff is good. Now, this is kind of more or less where I was at before, offline. I fixed a few things in terms of texture loading and whatnot, but now the question comes, when we actually load up a scene, what's going to happen? And I suspect it's just going to blow up and poop itself, but let's see. I'm going to hit L. Okay, so I see a lot of tracing output here, which tells me that we have descriptor sets that are not being updated, right? And of course, all of these outputs are just tanking our FPS, but we do have something being drawn here. I don't know what this is. Oh, that's interesting. We have, there's our red light, right? So I'm not 100% sure what we're actually looking at here. I suspect this is just like geometry not being aligned or something. This kind of looks about the size of our water plane, if I'm honest. I think it actually might be. So let's go ahead and let's stop this. And let's actually open up console log. And I want to go to where we start all these tracing things, right? And I'm actually just going to go to the end and nuke all those lines so that we can actually read the dang console. All right. I suspect we're just failing to load stuff, and it looks like I'm right on that. Okay, so let's see. Attempting to load Skybox R from package testbed. Watching the asset. Asset loaded from VFS successful. Okay, so it looks like our Skybox textures are loading. We have right, left, up, down, front, and back. Failed to load terrain resource. That doesn't surprise me. We've killed half of it, right? So that does not surprise me. Let's see, what else don't we have? don't we have, here we go. Sponza, right? So loading means scene, attempting to load Sponza from package testbed. Okay, so we loaded it from the VFS. Memory is not a valid Kohi binary asset. Failed to deserialize. Okay. So our meshes are loading off disk, but I'm guessing the verification that we have in place is failing. So we'll have to look at that. I don't remember if we have to re-import. I don't remember if we have to re-import our OBJs or not. We might have to. I'm going to try and get by without doing that. But if we have to, we have to. It's also going to cause all of our materials to regenerate. And I don't know how that process is going to work yet. So, but yeah, it looks like our Sponza failed to load for that reason. The tree failed in the same way. The hut that we have failed in the same way. So did the Falcon. And it says it has no submeshes, nothing to be done. Although that might be because, yeah. So it's all failing at this, not a Kohi binary asset. So let's actually, well, I guess before we do this, we should probably find out why the Skybox isn't rendering correctly. And also probably the water plane, right? Because neither one of those things, like there is a water plane there and it should be rendering correctly. And I think that's the geometry that we're seeing. Let's see. Forward deferred or forward plus in Kohi. Right now it is forward renderer. We do have to-dos in terms of making a deferred renderer and then forward plus. We're probably going to do it in that order because we'll still need the forward renderer for transparent objects when we're doing deferred. So we are still going to need that. I'm getting that one to work first with our new graphics pipelines. And then we'll go ahead and set up render graphs for deferred and forward plus. Forward plus requires compute, which we don't actually have support for yet. That is also on the to-do list. Forward plus, forward plus is definitely not going to happen for the first game. We don't really need it. And deferred may also not happen for the first game. We'll see where we wind up on that if we wind up needing it. I'm thinking a forward renderer is probably going to be good enough for the first game that we're going to do. Let's see. Are you using a .bat to build? I'm on Linux at the moment, so I'm actually using a shell script. But yes, on Windows you would use a batch file. Yep. Apotham, how's it going? Good to see you. How have you been? Let me get rid of this list. Okay, so I'm going to count these problems fixed. Those are fixed. Actually, you know what? Yeah, only update if the let's actually say descriptor has not been updated this frame. And I'm just going to copy this and actually go down here and say the same. Okay, and I could probably, I know I could definitely change this to be a little bit less repetitive between samplers and images, right? But I'm not worried about it for now. I just want to get it working, and then we can clean up a little bit later. We are actually doing this. We should probably go, since we are doing this with renderer frame numbers at this point, we should probably rename this. Actually, let me, should we go, I guess we'll do renderer frame number just to keep it consistent. And then we'll just say that the renderer frame number, on which this descriptor was last updated. One per swap chain image. Invalid UI ID U16 if never loaded. Okay. There we go. So that's at least named consistently, right? Okay. So I'm pretty happy with that. We do have some to-dos in here for minor performance gains, but we can come back to those. We're going to do a to-do hack fix-me pass before we check all this into the 8.0 branch. Dingus Dev, how's it going? Bat, yeah. Yeah, we do batch files on Windows, and we do shell scripts on Linux and Mac OS. Been good, happy all the chaos of Christmas is behind me for another year. Yep, I get that. Totally get that. I love the holiday season, but yeah, chaos is a good way of putting it. Okay, so one thing I do want to just quickly check. Let me actually bring this other buffer up. I want to open up shader Skybox. And we have this set of attributes here. And I don't remember for the Skybox if we're actually using all of those attributes. That might be part of the problem. So we'll do Skybox C. And we are doing geometry generate cube. So let's go to that. And we want are we doing all of this? Let's see. We're setting position, text coordinate, and normal. And we are generating tangents and all that stuff. I mean, that's definitely overkill for a Skybox, right? But I think we're doing that just so that it's like the same format as a bunch of other shaders. Eventually, I think I might make Skyboxes actually a type of material. So we're only talking a few vertices. I'm not really worried about it. All right, so that looks fine. Skybox FrameUI, we have that as a size 80. Let's check out, that's going to be in the forward render graph node for now. Whoops, for forward. All right, and when we're doing the Skybox shader, applying per frame, so this was saying that's 80, right? We want the frame UBO, which is going to be this guy. So we have projection and 2 view matrices. So, no, we have, wait, 4 view matrices. Well, that size is definitely wrong then. That's probably our issue, in fact. I'm tempted to kind of go the same route with this that we did with our materials and just generate this configuration so we don't have this stupid issue. But these are 64 bytes apiece, right? So we've got 4 of those in this case, so that's 256, right? Plus another 64, which is, let's see, 300? No, 320. So that's definitely wrong. I think it was because we didn't used to have multiple views. And that's because we have the potential to render the Skybox from different perspectives. Most notably, one from above the water plane and one from below the water plane, potentially, when we were generating things. So technically, I guess for the water plane itself, it doesn't really make sense, but the Skybox is one of those things we have to include, right? So we probably don't even need to render the Skybox from underneath the water. No, actually we do, because when we're looking through it, yeah. Okay, all right, anyways. So that was a problem. And then per draw, is we have 16 there, and that one is correct. So I wonder if it's literally just that issue. All right, let's try rendering this and see what we get. There we go. Skybox fixed. Cool. We are still getting our frame rate tanked because of all these tracing messages. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate that because we have solved that issue. That was in the Vulkan backend. Tracing. Here we go. So we could just take this and kill that. Also, there is a massive section of dead code in here. That's the custom Vulkan allocator. I'm waiting to turn that back on. Let's see, where was... Or did I already remove it? I don't think I did. I thought I had like a huge section of dead code in here somewhere that I needed to kill. But maybe not. I don't remember where it is, so I don't remember what to search for, to be honest. I just kind of have to catch it by scrolling through. Because I think if I try to search for, you know, that, I guess I'm going to have to escape that. Actually, it's going to be /star. Oh, there's only 12 of them. Okay, that's not so bad. Vulkan allocator. Nope, that's not what I need. Maybe I did nuke it. I must have. Okay. All right. So let me just test that real quick. Make sure I didn't break anything. Okay. So the other thing that you'll notice actually is our reflection actually does appear to be working. I'm not sure what this weird lighting situation is there, but you can actually see the skybox is reflecting correctly. So that does appear to be doing the thing. Okay, so we don't actually have any meshes rendered right now, so we kind of can't visualize it quite as easily. But yeah, it looks like our water plane seems to be working correctly. Or different lighting modes don't necessarily work. So I may have to fix that. But at least this is a step in the right direction, right? All right, so let's take a look at maybe fixing static meshes. See where we wind up with that, right? Okay, so I believe we were getting where was that? Memory is not a Kohi binary asset, right? So let's take a look and see where that is in logic, right? So here's the static mesh serializer, right? That's what we want to look at. So static mesh serializer, not a, here we go. Okay, so binary static mesh header. Did that say it's not a binary asset? Deserialize. Okay. Okay, so apparently the first thing that we're missing is our magic number doesn't exist, right? So if we take a look at this guy, our header for our binary static mesh file contains a binary asset header base, right? And that contains a few different properties. It contains a magic number, which is the first set of bytes in the file. That should always be the same thing. That is that defined constant that we have. The next thing is what type of asset it is, the version of that asset, and then the data block size of the asset itself. And so every binary asset that we have, like static meshes and textures and all that kind of stuff, should always have that as its first bytes, right? And then everything else after that is considered the data block. And so what this is saying is basically that our header is not this asset magic number, which we have defined, which is just a predefined integer that we have here, which we have just defined as 0x cafe babe, right? So that's just a hex number that we use. It could be deadbeef or whatever too. That's just the one that I chose. And so for some reason that is not matching up, and this is where it's failing. Now I don't remember. Do we have the old loader in here? I don't know if we did that, if we kept it around, or if we got rid of it. So we'll take a look at our old resources, right, and loaders. Scene loader, terrain loader. Okay, so we don't have the old loader to verify against. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to go to the repo and pull that up from there. So just give me 1 second to go ahead and do that. That is going to be in runtime, source, and then it's going to be under resources, loaders, and then we have, it used to just be called mesh loader. And so this was the sort of old file that we had in place that that we used. And I don't remember if our old file format actually contained this or not. I don't think it did. So let's see. This is load. Here we go. Load KSM file. So that's our custom format, right? Let's see. We need the actual definition of that. That's here. All right. So let's see. File system read. So version is the first thing in here. We have version, and then name, and then geometry count, and then geometry. So actually, this is a completely different file format. Okay. So we are going to have to throw away our old files and regenerate them. That's fine. I kind of expected that was going to be the case. And so what this is actually going to kick off, and this is actually going to probably take us down the rabbit hole of making sure that this deserializer works, but also the sort of import process that we have for static meshes. So I think what I'm going to do before I do any of this actually is I'm going to check in what we have now, right? Because we've made a number of changes. So we're going to add all this stuff, commits, and we're going to say, well, I guess that commit message works too. Vulkan and what do we want to call this? I guess Vulkan and resources. And we're just going to push that real fast. All right. That way we don't, wind up having like a huge change set unnecessarily. So, all right. So where all of these assets are going to be, these are all going to be testbed under testbed kapp and assets. So I think what we're going to try doing is these KSMs are these are the binary files that we were trying to load, right? These are the ones that are no longer any good. And so we have all of the source files here. So before I actually change this, let me go to the manifest, the file manifest, and actually make sure that all of our paths here are correct, right? So we have Falcon, right? So that is looking for the KSM here. They're not correct. So it looks in the assets models for Falcon, that's correct, but the source is not correct, right? This actually needs to have a source folder there, right? So the Sponza has it, the tree has it, and this one has it for some reason, but that file did not have it. All right, so here's the Sponza, here's the tree, and here is the simple hut. Okay, I think those are going to be good to go. Now the question is going to be whether or not it's going to be able to find the MTL files that sit next to the OBJs, right? So these are the material files that sit alongside the OBJs as we import them. So the OBJ importer should also trigger the import of the materials here, and we should get updated material outputs if everything's hooked up correctly, which I'm not 100% confident that it is, because we've literally not run this code at all. So let's see. You're now cross-platform. That's awesome. Doesn't run under Linux very well. Yeah, that's fair. It's a lot of work to get something cross-platform, but once you have it, once you have that established and you have those platform layers established, it's not too bad. It's not too bad to maintain it and go in there and change stuff up. So I'm sure you will figure it out. We still have to write a platform layer for Wayland one of these days. So that should be interesting because I've never written a platform layer for Wayland. So that's definitely going to be interesting, to say the least. All right, so let's go ahead and just run this. Oh, you know what? I forgot to nuke the... forgot to get rid of these assets here. So we want to remove this one, and remove this one, that one, and that one. Okay. Now we can actually run. And we're going to load and see what happens. Okay, so it's still running, but it looks like it failed to actually do the imports, I'm guessing. So let's take a look at the logs, right? We can actually probably just turn this off. And we'll take a look at the logs. No asset named Falcon exists in any package. I need to change this from a warning, right? Because this is actually... Why is it saying it doesn't exist and then it tries testbed? Testbed is the package it should be loading from. Let me check the... Does the manifest actually have it under a different name? No, it's testbed. So that's that package. Okay. Loaded from VFS, source asset loaded. No importers exist for type static mesh. Okay, so we don't have an importer somehow. Why does that not surprise me? Okay, so I guess we did not write an importer for it. The importers are going to exist under our utils plugin. We do have one. Okay. No importers exist for type static mesh. Let me see. KSet importer registry. Maybe we just didn't register it. It's possible that we just didn't register it. Oops, I forgot. We need this one. Register. There we go. Utils plugin main. Static mesh. There it is right there. What are you talking about, you dingus? Oh, copy pasta. Check that out. Image. This should be static mesh. What a dingus. Dingus-oriented programming strikes again. All right. Let's try that. Okay. Load. Interesting. I see geometry deduplication running, so maybe it did load. It's going through all the meshes in that file. So that OBJ actually contains like a lot of duplicate geometry. So part of our import process is to actually deduplicate a lot of that stuff, which that process is painfully slow and I need to speed it up. But, okay. Double free detected. It did look like it did most of it though. So let me see, where did this poop itself? That got a lot further than I thought it was going to, believe it or not. Oh, yep, I see it right here. Another copy pasta issue. Okay. So that is importer static mesh, line 95. This is why copy pasta is bad, right? This should be vertices, vertex count. Dingus-oriented programming for the loss. All right. There might be more of those. Unfortunately, that means that we are going to have to go through the process of deduplication again, but it is what it is. Okay, let's see. C is a nice language, but I like splitting stuff up using namespaces. Namespaces are kind of nice, but I've learned to live without them. It's not the end of the world. Will deduplicating geometry be an option you can enable and disable? Yes. Right now we just do it by default, but we do have import parameters. And so we'll be able to specify whether or not you want that done. Because deduplication is not perfect, and it does cause issues, right, on occasion. All right. Looks like we failed an assertion. But why? Why did I put a 0 there? Of course that's going to fail. Why have I done... Okay. Let me close that. VFS state. Do I not have state? Oh, it's right here. Okay. I guess it's something I just forgot to fix. What did I call that? No, just VFS. Okay. Okay, so it actually got to the point where it was going to write out the file, so that's good. And then deserializing the material file. Let me just comb through this really quickly and make sure that we don't have anything stupid in here, at least that I catch quickly. VFS asset right. We do have it there. Okay, I guess I must have missed that. Like I said, this is all brand new code. I've not exercised this stuff at all, so I'm not surprised there's some issues with it. All right, relaunch. Hardware requirements for the engine. Don't have them yet. I do have a couple of test rigs here that I'm going to do a lot of testing on. I'm going to try testing on some lower end hardware that I've got to try and get a feel for what those things are going to be. The engine itself is going to require probably a little bit more beefy of a machine than the actual end product, because you have things like extra debug processes and things like that that do slow things down, like Vulkan validation, right? So, we are going to have a definite difference between the end product's requirements and the requirements of the engine itself. But it's not going to be anywhere near the likes of like Unreal Engine or something like that, right? So I don't have an answer to that yet. We have to profile for that kind of stuff, and it's a little bit premature to do that now. All right, segmentation faults. All right, so why directory from path is path. Path is blank. Perfect. All right. K-name string get. That probably shouldn't be a get. That should probably be a create. Let's see. Meta source asset path. Are we not parsing that? Okay. So it looks like our asset handler for this particular type of asset is not putting in the meta information that it should be. Right. Version doesn't really matter so much for this asset type, but source asset path absolutely does. And we don't have tags or anything, but we don't even have we do have a name, we do have package name. Why did we not? I kind of feel like that shouldn't even be up to the individual asset handler. Like that should be something that the asset system just does. Load source asset. Oh. This can go. We don't need this anymore. But I think this might be a VFS issue, actually. Or maybe even an issue at the package level. Request asset. Yeah, I think this is going to be all the way down at the package level. Really, there's no parsing of metadata in here. Okay, well that's no bueno. So let's do entry get. I think the entry has a path and source path. So these are loaded in from the asset manifest itself. Return entry. Okay, get source. Here's all the actual file system checks. Data, read size, okay. So out data is we don't actually have a way to provide that unless we're loading the source asset. That's a design flaw. Because we don't actually have... I didn't think about that. So we only handle the path internally. but we have no way to actually, let's see, unless there's a way. Oh, we do have a way to retrieve it though, by package and by name. Okay, so source path for asset. The VFS is already pointing at that, but it's just doing the out data path. VFS source path for asset. So that just points through to that one. So it doesn't look like anything's actually calling it. So we made the entry point for it and just never hooked it up, I guess. We're only using it internally. And does out data actually hold that? We only have path, asset source asset path. Okay, we should probably although I feel like at this level we probably shouldn't be using strings. Let me see if I can get around doing this without that. So when we do VFS request asset, asset. It should be up to the asset system to do that. We do it for, looks like we do this manually for these, which we probably should eliminate. These should probably be turned into asset requests instead of reaching out to the VFS directly, but it's not the end of the world. The one that I'm interested in, though, request info. Where's the callback here? So here is the callback. And then importer. Here's the name, package name, right? Meta, right? Should be asset data. Actually, does this want a, this probably wants a K name, doesn't it? Source asset path, asset data, source asset path. All right, I am going to modify this a little bit to always return the source asset path if it is not a source asset itself, because that just makes a little bit more sense to me. So we have name, package name, and then we have kname, source asset path. Oh, do I want? Do I want to do that there? Or I suppose I could just do it there. should be part of the meta. So we don't need it there, we need it here, but I'm actually thinking this, since this is a path, this should probably be a k-string ID. Stored as a k-string ID. Reason being, paths are case sensitive, right? So names, we don't care about case, but paths we do. Especially on Linux and Mac OS, right? So this asset data, asset name, this probably should have source asset path, right? And this is going to be a copy of the source asset path if the asset itself is not a source asset. Otherwise, 0. Okay, so this is bleating about, whoops. Wait a minute, asset name. Are we not filling out the path here either? We're not actually holding on to the path. We probably should be. Right, we should probably do this, and then we'll say the path of the asset stored as a string, k-string ID. We should probably be storing both, right? So context asset meta asset path equals asset data wait a minute, path, I think it was path. Yes, okay. All right, so we need to do here k-string ID create. Whoops, that's the wrong. There we go. And then this needs to also be k-string ID creates. So we save those off. That's at the k-asset utils level. So anything that's using the generic handler should have that now. And then at the VFS level, we should also be storing off the path and the asset path. So in this case, if we're doing a get source, that's the source asset instead of the primary asset, meaning we're importing it. Then we're going to say out data source asset path is also going to be, oh, I wonder if we should always just store both. Right, so maybe we move both of these here. Right, you keep both. This, in fact, do I even only keep the package name in case an importer needs it later? We should probably always do that too. Okay, So we'll always keep the path and the source asset path if there is one. So what I'll do here is info asset name. I wonder if that's going to work. I think that should be fine, right? We should be able to use the same asset name either way. Yeah, I think that's going to work. Okay. All right, now, watch for hot reload. Technically could watch either file, but I think the only one we actually care about watching is the path, I think. Or should it be the source path? That could vary. I'm going to put a fix me in here. We'll come back to this. Should be able to watch either the source or primary asset path. Okay. I think that might fix the issue. I suspect that might cause some other problems, but we'll have to see. Taman, how's it going? Good to see you. Long time no see. Merry Christmas to you as well. Let's see. Imagine it would be between Godot and Unity. Yes, that's possible. In terms of like system requirements, yeah. Probable. LaFoley, good to see you as well. How you doing? Welcome. Let's see. Which is better, H or HPP in CPP projects? It doesn't really matter. I always use, out of habit, I always use HPP in C++ and then H and C. But you don't have to do that. It's literally, yeah, as Weiroo says, it's just convention, flip a coin, pick one, go with it. Yeah. That's what I do, but you don't have to do that. Singy, how's it going? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so let's take a look at this. We'll relaunch this guy. See what all we broke. Nothing so far. Okay, so not surprised we actually broke an importer. Let's see, what did we hit here? Base asset loaded. Oops. Context asset. So we don't have the asset path or the source asset path. Oh, we just changed those to, okay. We actually just changed those to, we just changed those to K-string IDs, didn't we? So anywhere those are used, we're creating a K-string ID there. This one needs to be K-string ID, right? We're going to start using that for paths instead. Okay. Source assets path. Okay, kname string get, that's going to be wrong. This needs to be case string ID string get. This is wrong because it's using, well, actually, is this, yeah, it's trying to use a case string ID directly instead of getting the string from it. Case string ID string gets. Okay. Case string ID is there. Okay, that's correct. Okay, so those are all using case string IDs now. The only one I have a question about is this one. But I think this returns a string. Yes, okay. Let's see if that works. Saw your series for the first time yesterday. Your commitment is commendable. I appreciate that. Yeah, we've been at this for a little bit, for sure. All right. Do we still not have? We still do not have these two. So why not? Oh, that might not even be the problem. Let me see. Index array. I know the index array isn't that big. What the heck? Where have we gone wrong? It's interesting that it got this far before it pooped itself. Material asset name. I'm actually thinking I should just roll this back. Wait a minute. Hold on. So, did I do something stupid here? So all we were doing differently is mainly this right here. So instead of only saving off the package name if we're loading a source asset, and well, the outdated path was different depending on whether it was a source or not. That might be part of the problem. So, I mean, I guess we could switch that back, right? So that was right here. So I could say if info get source. Let me just see if this fixes it. I'm going to roll back part of this. Copy this. This is what we were doing before. So we were doing the path as the source path, right? So let me see if that does it. I wonder if that's part of it, right? Might be. Nope. We broke something out. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Is that Orko behind you? Orko. You mean this guy here? That's a black mage, if that's what you're talking about. Okay. C++ 77, how's it going? First time chatter, welcome. We are debugging stuff. What is... I'm actually beginning to wonder if my... Is my asset system foobarring this, maybe? It might be. So that was one thing that we changed, but the other stuff, let's see, in here, I think the only thing we actually did in there is just delete and include we didn't need anymore. What else? We fixed that bug. That's not a big deal. We changed from... Oh, that was just a bug. Okay, so that's not it. That was a bug. That was a bug. Here we changed from K-names to K-string IDs. So that is not going to be it. Same thing there. So it's not going to be that. That we just deleted some dead code. It's got to be something I did in here. Why can't I adjust the split of these windows any better than that? That's kind of... There we go. So all I did was add these two guys. I can't see that having broken it. And other than that, it's literally just this stuff, which this really shouldn't change anything. Oh, wait a minute. I think I might have done that backwards. This should be here. And this should be here. Super exciting stuff, I know. All right. It's the same thing. Did we start maybe writing one of those asset files? And just didn't... Let me see something. Yes, that's what we did. It's trying to read a file that wasn't fully written, I think. See how these ones are crossed out, but this one is not? That's probably what it is. It probably didn't write out successfully. That's probably why it's pooping itself. Okay, so let's do this again. And we'll go ahead and load. Yeah, that's what it was. Okay. I forgot that that's a thing that can happen when you're dealing with importers, is like it half writes the file and then fails, and then you're wondering why. So we'll try the import process again. I probably should turn off deduplication just to simplify my life a little bit, but Going good. Leak coding a bunch now for an interview prep. Well, good luck with that. Even small startup questions ask me to reverse a linked list and write a binary search. Jeez, really? Realize I have to step my game up. Tmux is your IDE, but you commit changes through. No, I'm not committing. All I was doing was like looking to see what I changed. But yeah, as far as like commits go, I usually just do it this way, like and go through it this way. It was just a little quicker to do it the other way. But this is my debugger. So there's that. Yeah. How's the refactor going? The refactor is basically done at this point. I'm just troubleshooting and fixing issues. I think I'm pretty much done with the refactor. There's a few bugs that we have to kind of sort out along the way, but yeah, it looks like the refactor is done. I would probably fail a coding interview question, and I've been programming since I was 10. I'm the same way. I fail some of that stuff sometimes too, just because they always ask you something like, they'll ask you, questions about like that, right? And then the job actually consists of just editing CSS all day long. It's ridiculous. Super, super annoying. I don't think that those style of interviews are necessarily always the way to go. I get that the idea is supposed to be like, so that they can understand how you think through a problem, but I feel like if it's something that the person just doesn't happen to be familiar with and it's not part of the actual job, that's not really the right way to do it. Yeah, it is silly. Yep, I agree. Whiteboard interviews are not smart. Yes, I agree with that too. Yep. Like the way that I always did it when I interviewed people was I never had them like code in front of me or anything like that because I didn't find that useful. I would just ask them to like walk me through how they would solve a problem, just verbally, right? Um, that kind of stuff. Nothing crazy. Um, my company's larger team, Adobe Photoshop, does take-home technical tasks. Yes, we also did those. Yep, that I think is a much better way to gauge it, right? I agree with that totally. As long as it's not something that is going to take you like a week to write of like full-time hours, right? That I think is kind of not great, but um let's see. I have a question. I'm a new grad. What do you think in a few years leak coder style interviews will go away because of AI? AI solve a lot of leak code fix the process you went wait and the process you went through to fix it. Um, yeah, I agree with what Lazy Man says. It won't be a waste of time if you get to know something new. Um, it's always good to learn stuff for sure. Um, I generally tend to favor personal projects and actually building something useful over that kind of stuff past a certain point, right? Thought mid-sized companies and small startups don't ask LC style questions. I've been applying to those, and so far every interview was technical DSA questions. Yeah, I feel like they all do it. They just copy the big guys now, and it's just like, but why though? You know? Unrecognized token skipping. Okay, so this looks like our MTL file importer is what's failing. All right, that's progress. So I guess the next thing that we need to do, we have unrecognized token skipping. Let me see if I can actually find by that. Here we go. So let's actually look in our OBJ material serializer. Let's debug in there. I may actually have to delete the static mesh again. Yep. Okay. Let me do that. So we need collapse some of this stuff. Models, So I think this is importing, but because we don't have the imports between this and the materials split out yet, that's why it's failing. So I do need to fix that, but it won't be as big of a deal if we fix it across the board. I suppose I could probably just like switch to a smaller mesh as the first thing we load instead of loading the spawns every single time, but maybe I'll do that before I run it again. Okay. First character is M. Okay, let's take a look. Oh, I bet I know what the problem is. Or could be. Anyway. Let me look at the line buffer. Or I guess we can just look at line. Here we go. Map K textures. Okay, so it's saying, what is my additional advance here? Just one. Okay. No, this has got the fix that we talked about on stream last time. All right, so we are processing map underscore KA line. So the first line is going to be an M, right? Why are we doing this check again? That's always going to be the case. Oh, interesting. So map KA was what it was talking about? What is that? We're going to have to look that up, actually. Let's do... Believe it or not, there's a Wikipedia page that gives us the wavefront OBJ file format. KA is the ambient color of the material. So this is throwing an error. And we probably shouldn't be doing that, right? The ambient color is something that we can actually skip. This should probably be a warning. All right, so I can skip that one. Is that the only place that existed? There's a couple different places. There's another one, and there's that one. Okay, we have breakpoints on them all now, I think. Wait. This one. Okay. But all of these are like unrecognized tokens, so I don't think it's just going to ignore that property, right? So I think we could probably just convert these all to warnings. They don't need to be errors. Whoops. Warn even. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. All right, now, where is... So we have an assertion failure. Pushing into an empty array. Nice. Okay, so that's not a difficult problem to fix. So this is going to be in serializer, and let's see. This is where we're actually trying to push into that. So why do we not have current maps, texture maps? why do we push into that instead of current maps, right? We have materials. Current maps for the materials. Okay, so this is when it pushes. So we push into that twice, but we never actually set up the stupid thing. All right. Okay, so we need to go all the way up here. And I guess, where should we set that up? I guess we should probably do that up here, right? So we'll probably just do, this, and then say equals darray create. And then this is going to be what? obj source material, I think, is the type of that. Yes, okay. Is there anything else in here that we are missing? Let's see. Just material account and materials. We didn't say that was going to be a darray, though. I guess that's fine. All right, so when we're done, which is all the way down here, when we're done here, we can do out material source asset material count is equal to darray length. I don't actually want to use a darray for that, because when I go to clean that up, I don't want to have to rely on that. All right, let's do this a little bit differently. Instead of writing directly to this, let's do obj material, MTL source material array. And we're going to call this materials. We're going to create an array there. We're just going to do that, and then just push to that materials array. And then when we get to the bottom here, then we're going to do out asset material count equals darray length materials, and then we can do kalloc type C array. The type will be obj MTL source material, and the count is going to be out material source asset material count, right? And then we can do a k copy C array. The destination is going to be out material source asset materials. The source is going to be just materials. The type is going to be obj material source material, and the count is going to be out material source asset material count. And then we also need to actually save this off to out materials equals, right? So take a copy of the materials array, darray, and then we will, I guess, destroy darray destroy materials, so we don't leak that, right? It's technically another copy operation, but then we're only dealing with just a straight C array at the out materials level instead of a darray, which is a little bit cleaner. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Welcome. Let's see. Every time I see that you did something yourself, I'm amazed that you wanted to do it, and envious at the same time, because it's so cool to have control over everything and know how everything works. I do most of the time anyways. Yeah. By the way, when do you think you will finish the first game on this engine? So we are actually due to begin the first game in January. So we're going to start developing that. I don't have a timeline for how long that's going to take. It's just going to take as long as it takes, right? Because we are doing it on stream. That's going to slow things down. But that's generally the idea, is that we're going to build it on stream, and it's going to take as long as it takes. I'm guessing it's going to take at least a year to build a game on top of this. But yeah, that's the only estimate I have at the moment. So, have you implemented an arena? Yes. We have a few different allocators, but everything ultimately pulls from a large arena. And we have a memory tagging system that we're going to expand so that we can group together different types of allocations based on tag for memory locality. So yeah, we have a few different systems in place for that stuff. All right, so let's do that. You know what? Let's actually go to let's go to our test scene. This is what we're loading up whenever we try to load up the scene. And we have the sponza first, right? That's what's taking all that time to actually load. I'm going to use this simple hut because this is a much simpler piece of geometry. And I'm going to move it up the list. And that's going to make sure that this loads first, and then we load the sponza after that. Because the sponza takes a long time to import, right? So we'll do that, and then I'll come in here to our assets models. I'll need to delete this guy again. All right, and then build again just for good measure because I don't remember if I did, and we will run again. And this way, we won't have to wait for that long sort of import process to happen. It should be relatively quick. Okay, so allocate aligned requires a non-zero size. That is interesting. So what did we... Okay, new material maps, allocate. All right, so this must be upon us hitting a new name. We do not have any texture map counts in here. So we're trying to initialize a zero-sized array, which is dumb. That's interesting, though, that we don't have texture maps. But okay, that is something we should consider. I guess we should probably also consider that for material properties, right? So let's actually take a look at that. What line was that? 198. So that's just going to be right up here. So basically the error is bleating about it's trying to allocate a zero-size array. So looks like we're doing the same thing here that we kind of did further below. So what we'll say is if new material property count, and then we'll do this, right? And then here, same thing, if new material texture map count, then we'll do this, right? And we're actually going to need this same logic here. I think it should just be good to just plop that in there. Okay. So let's go ahead and we're going to have to kill the asset again. Eventually we'll make this run a little bit cleaner so that we don't have to keep doing this, but for right now, this is what we got to do. All right, so we will get rid of the KSM. Oh. It looks like it might have loaded. Now, whether or not it's going to correctly handle all the materials remains to be seen. But we did get past that initial mesh. I don't see it being rendered here, though, so that's a little bit suspicious. But again, we might have shader issues, so we'll see. Oh, it worked. Moments are the best. Yes. They are and they aren't. They can be a little bit alarming, you know? All right. Unrecognized. Okay. So this one, for some reason, failed. Segfault. Static mesh on resource load. Okay, so material instances. Where are we segfaulting? Right there. Type listener instance does not have anything. Why? And why does that one specifically not have one? I think all the rest of it did what it was supposed to. Lots of unrecognized tokens, which means our material properties were not correct. Okay. It looks like we might have, yeah, type listener, oh, instance. Okay, so it's not able to pick that up there either. What does type listener actually have? Does it have anything? It has nothing. So I guess let's take a look at the static mesh system and see what the heck is going on there. All right, so static mesh resource request listener. Where do we actually create this guy? Right here. Well, you see, folks, it actually helps if we do listener instance equals out instance. Just a skosh. Okay. Now that we're past that bananery, let's just reload and let's see if the stuff we imported actually works. Right? Probably not, but yeah. All right, so loaded from the VFS, primary asset loaded, binary deserialization is failing. Let's see if we can get to the bottom of that. Again, code that hasn't been exercised at all, so I'm not surprised that there's bugs in it. All right, so read indices if there are any. We do have apparently bunches of them. That doesn't seem... Let me take a look at the header information first. So 349, wait, 340, 569, 1582. I think that's the same as what this is. If I go here, I can actually plug that in. No, I can't actually. Plug this in though. Yeah, okay. So our header looks like it loaded correctly. Type 3, version 1, data block size is only that many bytes. And we had way more, way more indices reported than that. So something is not right. It either didn't get written out right or we're not reading it right. We did extract the mesh or the asset type correctly. The version is just hard coded to 1, which is fine for now. Okay, so typed asset. Let's look at what is in here. So we have 2 geometries. Which I do believe that that OBJ file has two geometries. We can actually look. We can actually look at it because it is a human readable format, which is one of the reasons I chose it. So let's look in. Oops. So there's the binary version. Here's the source version. So we actually want to look at this guy. Okay, so what we need to look for is we have the object, which is basically saying this is starting a new object, and then the name of that object afterwards. So if we look for O space, we should be able to find the other one. So that is the first one. There's the second one. So we are parsing that correctly. We do have two objects. So that looks fine. Where were we? Okay, so we're going through our geometries here. Okay, so we set up an array for them there. We go ahead and we get our geometry data. So each of our geometries, let's see, what index are we at where we failed? First one. Okay. Index count, I mean, that's just not even close to being correct. So it looks like we're loading indices first and then vertices. Geometry block size, that actually looks to be valid. Copy memory. Okay. So I think we've extracted that correctly. The center, whoops, extents. The extents look valid to me. The center point is probably going to be 0 or close to it. No, it's actually not. Okay. That actually does look valid to me though, given the mesh. Okay, so far so good there. All right, so the name, we don't have a name. So that portion failed. I'll bet I know what happened. I wonder if when we are writing out, when we're writing out the name to the file, if we aren't 0 terminating it, this is going to fail. And that may be exactly what's happened. So let's take a look at that. We need the binary static mesh serializer, and we actually want to go to serialize. Let's see, this one. Here's the name plus null terminator. Kname string get. I don't see here where we're actually writing the null terminator though, right? Data block size plus equals length. Oh, we're not doing a write yet. We're only checking to see how big the data block needs to be. Okay, I guess that's fine. When we actually do the write, this is just... Wait a minute, are we not writing? Hold on a second. Calculate the total required header size first. Then we do this, then we allocate the block, then we, okay, all right. So center extends, we know that was working. Name plus null terminator. Guess what? We're not terminating the string. Noob mistake. Okay, So what we should be doing here is we should be doing a k-copy memory for the string length, right? And we are actually going to do just length at this point. We're going to copy the string, and then we'll go ahead and do the offset, right, is plus equal to length. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to say, I guess we could just, let me think how I want to do this. We actually didn't do this correctly up here either, thinking about it. So we don't just want, well, I guess we could just have a single character for that. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, that is actually fine. This is the part that's not fine. All right, so we have the string length here. We copy the string, right? But that does not include the null terminator. Then we increase the offset into that byte array by the length. So that puts us where we need to be. So if we do a cold cast of the block to a U8 array, and then we do offset and set that to 0, that will null terminate it, and then we do offset. I guess we can just do plus plus, right? I probably shouldn't do plus plus. I should probably do plus equals 1. Because plus plus is going to potentially, depending on compiler, because it's a void pointer, it might move it forward 8 bytes instead of 1. I think this is what we need to do. And we need to do that for any string that we have. So that's going to be the same for the material asset name. Actually, that might be the only other one. So I'm just going to copy pasta this, right? Do that. And that should be all that we need to do, I think. So let's take these. We need to delete these KSMs again. Yes. Whoops, I don't want to copy it. I want to delete it. And delete. Okay. Relaunch. Isn't your memory block zeroed when you allocate it? Yes, it is. But, oh, you're right. That technically should have worked. But it didn't, though. Also, did I rebuild? I don't think I did. Thank you for the follow. Curious to how your D-array works, since you can D-array X is possible. The pointer is pushed past the header, and the utility functions deduct to read the header. Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's how it works. It's just we store the header before the actual pointer that we store the D-array at. It's been super useful thus far, anyway. It's a really good point, Tammin. It should have worked without me having to do that. All right, you know what? I'm just going to import again. See if we hit that issue. If what you're saying is right, and I'm actually thinking it's going to be now, the stuff we might have done might have been for naught. I should have technically gotten away with it because of the zeroing during allocation, but Okay. Malloc invalid size unsorted. Okay. What did we do here? Oh, you know what? That wouldn't have been the case because I actually turned off our custom allocator. So it's using system malloc, which does not have that, actually. So technically, if we were using our custom allocator, it would have worked. But because we're not, that's why it failed. Crap, and I just closed the application I shouldn't have. Poop. All right, well, let me see what it does now on a load. Dingus-oriented programming? Yes. Definitely. I'm guessing there's no source here, or... Okay. Segfault. But why? Back at the same issue we had, because this count is ridiculous and not valid whatsoever. Okay, offsets. Interestingly, though, is that what's actually... So there's no material asset name, and there's no name on the geometry. And this is actually from the asset itself. So actually this code wouldn't have even gotten hit. Why do we not have names? We should absolutely be getting that from our importer is actually causing this problem. Let me think of as to why, though. Because there's also 0 vertices, which is also definitely wrong. All right. Let me delete those files again. All right. I probably should just like make a batch file to delete these. All right. Let's take a look at the importer again. Importer obj. Because I'll bet we're doing something dumbus in here. Some dingus-oriented programming is coming to light somewhere in here. So let's read the code from the top, because I think that is probably... So we know this actually works, because we were getting the correct geometry count. We were getting the center and extents actually read in correctly. So that portion of it is correct. We probably need to look at this deserializer actually, rather than the importer. All right. So the only thing we do with OBGA files is we deserialize them, right? Positions, normals, text chords, groups, geometries,, material file name, material names. We have 32 of them. They can be 64. Let's see. I suppose that's a little bit of a ridiculous limitation. I should probably put a fix me in there for that. Okay. So we process each line. I don't think the individual bits are going to be an issue of this. Vertices are probably fine. Faces are how we index. I don't feel like I've messed with any of this code either. Material library file. Actually, where's the material name? Let me see. Read the material name. Here we go. Material names. I mean, I feel like that should be more than long enough. But for some reason we're either not getting it or we're not copying it over after it's deserialized. So let's actually, I guess we'll step through this probably. It's probably going to be the better way to handle it. We want here we go. So we want material name. I think that was one of the things. And then also, what was the, I think it was, there was material name, and then there was also, oh, that's the MTL serializer. That's actually not what I want. This is the one I want. In the wrong dang file. Material file name was not getting parsed for some reason. So I want to check that out to see why that's not getting. Okay. And then, what was the other name? I think it was just, was it group name, material names, new data name, object source geometry. This was it here. Okay, let's put a breakpoint there. Oh, wait a minute. We should probably do that as well. And then same thing here. Okay. So let's run this again. Did I kill the, they kill the assets? Let me see. Oops. Yes, okay. All right. So we have the simple hut lod0.mtl. Okay, so that's the material file name. Okay, so we did save it off in this case. So why didn't that make it all the way over? Why are my breakpoints off by a line too? Hold on. For some reason, my breakpoints are just not showing up as they should. Load. All right. Here we go. So material file name is getting assigned at this level. So the source level, this outsource asset rather, has what we need. Let's make sure that the names are also getting duplicated. Interesting. So is it possible that the geometry just doesn't have a name? Is that... Let me open the source file again. I thought that those had names, but I could be wrong. Yeah, they do have names. They both have names. So why are we not parsing them? Do we not have... That might be... Okay. Material library file. So group is a sub-object, but I don't think we're actually parsing the O line. Some of those assets, unfortunately, are a little bit different from one another. So this one uses O, but the tree uses G. Sponza uses L. Falcon uses O. I wonder if this has been a long-standing bug that I just never noticed. I'm thinking it might have been. Because I'll bet this doesn't have a G line. But this one probably doesn't have an O line. Cool. Yay, consistency. This one has both. That's neat. I may have to figure that out in our parser later. I'm not going to worry about it for now, because up until now, it has worked just fine. So I'll have to investigate what the difference is between those two. Anyway, I'm going to continue. So our vertex count is something sane, okay. Index count is sane, okay. For our second geometry, again, relatively sane counts. All right, so we clean up all this stuff. And here's where we do the deduplication. Okay, so our new vertices array is there. Our new vertex count is much less. Our index array is just that. Okay, and then we generate tangents, and then we do the same thing again. So again, we have vertex count, which is reduced. We have our indices array, our index count. That seems fine. Okay, so have our geometries. Again, let's make sure that the memory looks good there. I think it does. Vertex count. Yeah, okay, so our counts are good there. Wait a minute, our index count. Yeah, okay, yeah, that seems correct. Okay. So we take the geometry count, the center extents geometries. Then we loop through the typed assets geometries, center extents. We don't have a name, but we know why, at least. This is going to poop itself because we're passing an empty string, so that's just not going to have a name. Same with, well, actually, the material asset name should have something. We do have that. Okay. That doesn't seem right either, though. Is it really boards? Let's see. I don't think that's correct. Use material boards. Oh, I guess it's going to pull it out. Yeah, okay. I think that's actually correct. All right. So the index count seems valid here. Source indices, source index count. Just making sure we're not copying this in the wrong direction. Index size is okay. All right, so that seems fine. Vertex count is size of vertex 3D times the vertex count. Take a copy of the vertex count. Allocate a vertex array. Take a copy of that data. Okay. So we do this again. Index count. Okay, that one was valid. So it's valid at this point, where we take the OBJ data into our asset. Okay, so that looks fine. Okay, free that string. Now we serialize the static mesh and write out the KSM file. So I guess this is probably... Do we need to debug this? We probably should, I guess. Okay, so here we put our magic number in for our asset. We put the asset type in, which is 3 for static mesh. I feel like there was something else that should have been here. We don't have data block size yet. Okay, I guess we're good so far. All right. So here we have the header. The header has extents and center and geometry count. So that looks good. And then here, we're actually writing from the source asset, or we're copying from the source asset to the actual file. So this should be pretty much just a let's see, size of, wait, why are we doing this bit? Data block size. Keep a reference to the point in memory where size will be written. Why do we need this though? What are we writing to that? I don't think we're actually writing anything to that. And also the center and extents are part of the header. Wait a minute. I think I've got this wrong somewhere. Let me look at the actual part that writes this out. Maybe I'm just thinking about it wrong. No, we write the whole header. So this stuff we don't actually need to do because this stuff is written all as one block here. So the data block itself actually starts here. When we read this, and let me see what happens when we read this in. Yeah, so we grab the header here. And then we move past it. And then we grab the geometry count geometries directly. And for each one of those, we get the size of the geometry. What? That's the U64, and then we have the geometry center and the extents. Right, because each one of the geometries has its own center and extents. So actually, that stuff all lines up. Time to abolish OBJ files. I mean, you say that, but it's a relatively simple file to parse, right? Simple format, anyways. LaFoley, have a good one. Yeah, good luck with the bugs. I'm going to need it for sure. If you're not hitting the code inside the blocks that need names, you're not updating the offset. Yeah, I think I'm definitely reading from the wrong parts in the file. That's definitely what's happening. I'm just trying to figure out exactly where. And I have a feeling when I'm going to serialize this, that's probably exactly what's happening. Okay, so for... I forget what this first U64 is for, though. Geometry block size. Why do we have... Like, we read that and then don't do anything with it. I don't think we need that. And I think it's screwing us up, actually. All right. Let's actually go in here and I'm going to open up side by side, and we're going to look at serialize on the left, and we're going to look at deserialize on the right. So the first thing that we take care of is the header in both cases, right? So we take care of that here by basically creating the header, right? And then here we're just calculating the total amount that we need to make in terms of size for the whole thing. So I'll come back to that. But the very first thing that we do is we allocate the block and then copy over the header as one big block, right? So the opposite of that should be essentially what we're doing here. We take the block and we cast it to the header, which basically says we're just going to treat the first bytes of this block as the header. We extract the type out of that, metadata. Then we get typed asset data for that from that, which is the geometry count, extents, and header. Then we move the offset beyond the header, and we start parsing geometries. So the next part of this is here we're actually iterating the geometries to write them out. So keep a reference to the point in memory where the size will be written. I don't remember why we're doing this, and I don't think we need to do it. Because we're actually parsing all of this stuff out of here, right? Right, I literally don't think we're actually using size at all. So let's get rid of this because that's dumb. Geometry start. Are we actually using geometry start? I don't think so. Oh yeah, we are. Okay. Rate the diff in the pointer position. I think we're overcomplicating this. So this out size should just be like the total data block size that we have, right? It should be, oh, in fact, we have it right there. Out size. So we don't even need geometry size is offset minus. Why are we doing this? I don't think we need this. Again, I think that's just getting in our way and complicating things. All right. So the first thing that we want to do within this is we want to take the center and extents and copy that into the block of memory. So we have block plus offset. And then we move the offset by the size of center, which in this case is just a vector 3. Same with extents, which is an extents 3D, which is two vector 3s. Okay. So that should be fine as far as that's concerned. And then name and null terminator. So that's only true if we actually have the name. This, I think, is where we're going wrong. Because what we're doing is we're just writing the name if it exists and not writing the name if it doesn't exist. Which, how the heck is this going to know that? right? When we go to deserialize that, in fact, actually, this is never going to work either because that's always going to be false because it hasn't read this yet. So that's also wrong. Okay, so what we really should be doing is we should be doing name length equals 0, right? And then we'll do this, and then we'll say name length, right, is equal to that. Name length, oops, there we go. Name length is there. We move forward by that, offset by 1. Okay, so what we should really do is before we do this copy, we should store the name length in the file, even if that happens to be 0. So what we can do is kcopy memory. This is going to be block plus offset. The source is going to be name length, and the size is going to be size of U32. So store name length, and then store the name, right? And we're also going to want to do, let me think about this for a second. Because we need to write this no matter what, right? So I guess we could just do, I guess we don't have that, right? We could just do that, right? And then just do something stupid like, well, we'll just write name length out, right? Which is 0. Store name length only of 0 only. Right, okay. So if we do have a name, then we write out the name length first, and then we write the name. If we do not, we only write out the name length, which is 0, but we have to put that anyways. Material asset name is going to be the same thing. So I guess I could, this feels very kind of gross to me, but let's do this. We'll store the name length, right? And then we'll put this, we'll say if name length. Then we'll store the name if one exists. Oh, and I guess we need the string too, right? So I guess we're going to have to do right. Okay. So this also needs to do offset plus equals size of U32. Okay. Null terminator. Okay, so we need that. And then we'll do U32 mat asset name length is equal to 0. If we have this, then we do mat asset name length, and then we copy that memory, and then we move the offset, and then we move the offset again. Okay, but this will close off here. Here we'll do this again, but we'll have to modify that. All right, so this is going to be material asset name length, So we'll store that. Then we'll store the material asset name if it exists. Okay. Now we should be good. I think that was the entire problem. Alex Lee, how's it going? My Christmas was pretty good. How about yours? Had a good time with family and stuff, and was good to actually spend some time away from tech a little bit. Can't complain. I hope yours went well as well. It's always good to disconnect and spend some time with family sometimes, you know? Thank you for asking, though, by the way. Okay. So let's see. We have the... Oh, see, this is another thing. If we don't have indices, we're going to run into the same problem again. So... Oh, wait a minute. No. We only wrote a zero size here. No, we actually took that into account for these two. Okay, so I think this is the entire problem here. So over here, we need to do the opposite. We need the name plus the null terminator if one happens to exist. So we need to extract first off the name length, right? So we'll say u32 name length equals 0, and then we'll do k copy memory. The destination is going to be the address of name length. The source is going to be block plus offset. And then the size is going to be size of u32, right? And then here, this is actually wrong. This should say if name length. If we have a name length, then we extract it. And then move the offset forward, right? So let's see. So this actually shouldn't even be doing this. We need to do actually. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome. So this we actually need to do. Actually, did we even write the null terminator here? I think we only write the string. We don't even need the null terminator now that I think about it. Because we're storing the length, we don't even need the null terminator. Let's get rid of that. That's just needless, actually. That's a good point. Because we already have the length. So we don't need to mess with that. We could just literally store the string and then not have it be null terminated. Which means here, this don't even need this, right? All we need is to copy the string at once. So we're going to copy into gname. Is that that's a k name, so we can't actually do that. We have one more step. So we need I guess we'll just call it name, right? Or actually, I guess name buffer. We'll do a k allocate size of char times name length, right? And then memory tag string is what we'll use for that. And then we could just do a copy memory into, instead of that, we'll just do name buffer, and then from block plus offsets. Oh, we didn't offset this. U32. Right, name length first. The name if it exists. So we do that for the name length. We do a direct copy here of, name length. And then we do offset is just name length. No +1 because we don't need the null terminator. If it exists. Much simpler. So this is going to be the asset name length. So that's going to wind up being U32 mat asset name length. We'll start off at 0. And of course, we'll do a do one of these. Let me rename this to be consistent with the other side. Okay, so we get the name length. This, of course, is wrong too. This whole block is not needed. We do a buffer, right? So we'll just say, actually, I'll just do this. You know what? I forgot a step up here. We forgot G name equals kname create from that name buffer. And we forgot to clean up the name buffer. Important. Okay. But I'm going to take this and just copy it down here. And we're going to do, instead of name buffer, we can leave it named that for now. What we really need is material asset name, and then the length, instead of name length, needs to be mat asset name length. Same here. Same here. Okay, and then we can just rename this to mat name buffer. Okay. That looks correct to me. Okay. Indices, we read the count first. That was correct from before. And then vertices, we read the count first, and then the array. Okay, I think we might actually be good now. Now that we've got the dingus-oriented programming out of the way. All right, so that means I'm going to have to come in here. I don't want to save this. All right, we need to come in here and... Well, I guess we didn't get far enough to actually write anything out. All right, that's perfect then. Okay. So let's run this. And load. I think I'm going to skip past this because I'm going to assume that those are working as intended now. Okay. Oh, string is, all right, what are we doing here? Did I do something stupid? I probably did. Okay, so this is, we're serializing the mesh out. Store the name. The name length. What is... Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm doing something stupid. Yep. We have this string out here, right? And we're using that here, but then in this one, we have that, right? Which actually, this is going to leak memory too, so that's actually going to be... Oh, wait a minute. No, it won't, because this actually returns the internal string lookup. So that's actually fine. So I guess we segfaulted here because I think we just updated the wrong variable. I think I might have that corrected now. Okay. All right, Taman, have a good one. Enjoy. Get a good sleep for sure. I'm gonna be ending here soon too, I think. And yeah, have a good happy New Year's Eve as well. All right. Thanks for stopping by. Okay. I'm just going to kill all these breakpoints. Let's just blast past it and see what happens. I suppose I could just turn the spawns off. That'd probably save us a lot of time till we actually get this right. Material instances. Wait a minute. What's it saying? What did it segfault on? We have the instance now. We don't have a mesh resource. Really? Submesh count. Okay. Static mesh system. Again. Okay, so we have this. Let me just see. Mesh resource, instance ID. Okay, so when we request this, we don't yet have a pointer to the resource. That is going to have to happen. Here. So when we do the request, we have, let's see, the listener. Oh, we set the listener mesh resource here. So why isn't that typed resource? I mean, I suppose I could use that instead, but Oh, wait a minute. This is something else entirely. This submesh count. Okay, so typed resource. So actually, we probably should be setting that here. Material instances. Okay, that's probably what we need to do. I wonder. Let me try reloading this and see if that's going to work. We might have to start all over again. Yeah. Look at that name length. That is ridiculous. Okay. So apparently our name being written out is still not correct, because that's obviously, that's very wrong. Okay. So I guess we need to look at the serialization routine. Let's delete these assets again. And I'm actually just going to go over to the test scene. And I'm actually just going to take out Sponza for right now. Simple Hut's in there twice too. All right, I'm going to try running this one more time for tonight, and then we are going to call it. Okay, we're further along at least. All right. So, yeah, we made some pretty decent headway today anyways. We fixed our Skybox. We got that up and running. It looks like our water plane is working correctly as well. It's just some issues with static meshes that need work. So I'm going to continue working on this offline at some point. And then next time we stream, hopefully I'll either have this working or we'll be much, much closer to it. So, yeah, that is basically where we're at. Let me see who's online that I can raid. Hopefully we can find something that's you know what? I see who we're going to raid, because this chap is never online when it's time for me to raid. So we are going to raid Sergeant Pepper, because he's he pops in here all the time, and so we're gonna go support his stream tonight. So yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys, and we will catch you guys on the next stream, where we will hopefully be much closer to continuing and getting started with our game and getting things up and running. So, all right. With that said, we're going to go ahead and hop over there. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.